We are now at descriptions of land. Again, this is under property ownership. You'll have 6 test questions under property ownership on your exam. And I will say you've got 1 or 2 options of content of that 6 in the information that we're going to cover, some options that you'll have for potential test questions. So let's do a review. We're talking about legal descriptions, which is a way to identify a piece or parcel of land, as they might call it. The legal description is what is actually held up in a court of law. It's not the street address. The street address is for parties, the post office, and the ambulance for 911. It's the legal description that actually holds up in law. I will give you an example on that. My family actually bought a condo years ago down in the Ozarks, and it was a 4-story condo building. And some people maybe wanted to live on the first floor because it was right at the lake level. You could just shoot out and get right on your boat. Some people maybe wanted to live on the 2nd level. Some people maybe wanted to live on the 4th level where there was no one living above them, vaulted ceilings, sky view of the lake. My parents wanted to live on the 3rd level. And here's why. It was at the same level as the parking lot. So it was a 0 entry, and they had a very good friend that was in a wheelchair. They wanted her to be able to come and visit them at the condo. But when they bought it, it was new construction. They didn't quite know the addresses yet. So they wrote an offer. And when it came time to closing and they did the final walkthrough a couple of days before they were set to close, they show up with their real estate agent and the property has not been completed. No cabinets, no flooring. What's going on here? Well, the builder said, that's the address you wanted me to finish. I finished it, and threatened them with a lawsuit if they didn't close. So Dad thought, well, if he's going to lawyer up, I better call back and talk to an attorney myself. And his recommendation was, what's the legal description? It doesn't matter what the address is. The legal description is what holds up in a court of law. So we went back with that, and all of a sudden the builder changed their tune and offered a great deal if they would buy the unit that was actually completed. And I know that they would have loved to have gotten a great deal, but again, it was 0 entry from the parking lot to the unit that was their interest. But all that got resolved by the legal description. And you'll have this happen with new construction. Sometimes homes are built so fast, the city hasn't even had time to put an address on it yet. Or as the city grows, maybe they need to put directional in the address. Instead of 123 Main Street, it now needs to be 123 Main Street Southwest. So that can happen as well. But the legal description is what always maintains, and again, is recognized by law. Something else I want you to know about legal descriptions for the exam and for your career. When you write an offer, you will need this legal description. And typically it's found, I know a lot of people use the assessor's page for it, or it will be on a legal document called an abstract. That's the complete autobiography of the property. Just know that most assessors have a disclaimer on there that it should not be relied upon for legal documentation. That's to cover them in case they have mistyped something on their website. But I do know a lot of agents use that as a resource. You will have maybe 2 lines on the purchase agreement for this legal description. And most of them will fit in that 2 lines. But what if it doesn't? What if it's a really long legal description? Do not, for your career, do not write long on file, see assessor's page, or see abstract. You actually need the legal description So if it doesn't fit in that little spot, attach a separate document or find another place you can reference in the purchase agreement where it can be written in its full entirety. That's a great test question. Get an attachment where you can write the whole thing out. Don't write a short version of it. We've got a whole thing there because, again, this is what I've said this 10 times already, holds up in a court of law. There are 3 types of legal descriptions. We use a survey. A certified surveyist can actually properly measure, calculate the dimensions of a parcel, and know exactly where the pins go of the corners of the property. These 3 types of legal descriptions are called a meets and bounds, rectangular or government survey, and lot and block. The first one is a meets and bounds, short for measurements and boundaries, that was used with the original 13 colonies. What they would do is they would start at a point of beginning, also sometimes called a monument, which was maybe an intersection of a street. They would give you details all along the property and return you back to the beginning. So if you've got a question around meets and bounds, it's probably going to refer to that point of beginning or monument. Or another style I've seen is, if you go 85 feet east, 100 feet south, and 85 feet west, how do you get back to the point of beginning? Well, you go 100 feet north. Okay, that is actually a style of a meets and bounds question. Okay, and as you can see here, they are lengthy as an example. But this one starts again at an intersection of 2 roads as its point of beginning. Next up is the government rectangular survey system. This is the grand presidential architect Thomas Jefferson's creation. And as expansion went westward, he thought it was time to get organized on how we develop land. Now, have you ever taken a flight out of Iowa and looked down out the window? You've seen all these perfect square patches of land. It looks like a quilt, right? Like a pattern quilt almost. That's actually the government survey system in action, okay? It was a grid system that was created, and every 6 miles going north and south is a range line, and every 6 miles going east and west is a township line. And these 6 by 6 square miles is created a township. Now, we know that these were perfectly squared out and then probably modified. If you've ever seen the show How the States Were Made, which was a series on the History Channel, and I do believe there's a really good book about how each state got its shape. You know that Iowa was probably moved around a little bit so that we could have rivers form our edges on each side, and that way Illinois has access to water, Nebraska has access to water, and so do we. Otherwise, it's on a grid system. Okay, so townships are 6 by 6 miles. Then within each township is a section, and a section is 1 square mile. Now, here's what I think you really need to know for the exam. 1 square mile equals 640 acres. Each acre equals 43,560 square feet. Here's what I'll say. If you've got a question on the exam that maybe says something like, a investor is building a property that is 30,000 square feet and must put it on a lot at minimum 2 times its size. We know we need a $60,000 lot. Or sorry, a 60,000 square foot lot. But how many acres is that? We would take 60,000 divided by this 43,560, and we'd get 1.37 acres. So we know that's how we can convert square footage to acreage. That might be a style of test question that you have. My recommendation is you won't all need that 640 square feet or the 43,560, but just in case, when you go to the exam test center, you are allowed a piece of scratch paper that they give you and they'll take back from you when you're done with the exam. This is only if you're going to a test center, not if you're doing a proctored exam from your home. But if you go to a live test center, you got that scratch piece of paper. You can't walk in with Cliff's Notes on your hand or in your hoodie, but I would say you can brain dump. So as soon as you sit down, before you even touch the mouse to the computer, up in the corner, I would write 640 and 43,560. Brain dump that out in case you need it. That way, if it comes up, you're not wondering, is it 45,360? You're not inverting, rearranging the numbers. So I would know 640 and 43,560. Okay. And this is an idea of that township system. So we've got 6 miles square. Section 16 was always reserved for a school district. But a section is 1 mile by 1 mile. So 1 square mile is 640 acres. Each acre has 43,560 square feet. Last, we have the lot and block system. And this is the one that you're probably going to be using the most. This is a recorded plat map. And this fits inside the government rectangular survey system here in Iowa. But it's where someone actually goes as the developer. They create a lot, a block number. Some of you might know it as a plat, with the name of a subdivision. And they record, so you can see this is a up close version of a lot, and a recorded plat map. Tells you exactly the degree it's at, the setbacks, where the pins are located, the measurements, the curve line. This must be in a cul-de-sac. Again, what the setback is, if there is any easement here with utility, it would all be put there. So I think this is typically the type of, at least in residential real estate, that you're going to use. It's going to be something like lot 36 Sunset Ridge, plat 2. And then there might be lot 36 Sunset Ridge, plat 4, 5, 3, right? There might be several plats to the same development as it grows bigger and bigger. If you're working with undeveloped land or farmland, you might still see some of this old school example of a lot and block system, where it's going to talk about recognizing whether you're in the top half or the lower fourth corner of that section. So again, just to review, I would know the definitions of all 3 types. I would know what to do with a legal description if it's too large to fit on the purchase agreement. Make sure that you get an additional document to it. With a meets and bounds, I would know that point of beginning or monument and how to give back to it, even if they give you, again, 100 feet east, 85 feet south, 100 feet west. How do you get back? 85 feet north to the point of beginning. With the government survey, I would know that one section is a square mile with 640 acres or 43,560 square feet. And again, the lot and block is a recorded plat map. Up next is your review for property ownership. and a quiz.